Welcome to Times Conversations. Today we're talking about a two-part topic, AI in healthcare and engineering. And to talk about part one, we have with us Dr. Apoorva Haree, the Chief Operating Officer of Rajalakshmi HealthCity. Welcome, Dr. Apoorva. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to dive right in to talk about AI in healthcare. And I think AI now has become the buzzword across all spheres. So I think you're the right person to tell us a little bit about what it means in the field of healthcare. Sure. So maybe you could, I know it's a very broad question, but give us your insights on that.
So like you said, Paloma, AI is a buzzword, and I think what a lot of people assume is that artificial intelligence is going to take over and start diagnosing patients better and make doctors' jobs redundant. But actually, what we need to understand is that artificial intelligence has a myriad of opportunities in healthcare, and not just in diagnosing patients, but also in something as simple as coming up with personalized treatment protocols. And something that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of work goes on behind the scenes in running hospitals and clinics and managing patients. So, artificial intelligence also is helping healthcare professionals and management professionals streamline operations and making the experience better for patients and doctors alike.
So, I mean, one thing that I think it's an image that's playing everywhere is everyone says, oh, now the robots are going to be doing everything. Now,
Yes.
one robot is serving at least in a restaurant. So that means, a robot is going to be performing all the surgeries, is what everybody's scared of. So, I mean, you're a surgeon yourself, laparoscopic, endoscopic. So I think you're the right person again to throw light on this.
Yeah.
How realistic a scenario is this? And tell our audience a little bit about this as well.
So I do know that robotic surgery is gaining a lot of popularity nowadays because because of the precision and the smaller incision size. It's the same as laparoscopy when it was gaining popularity a couple of years back. And while artificial intelligence is an extremely powerful tool, and never say never, you don't know what the future holds. But this powerful tool can only be used at its best when it's combined with the experience and the compassion of human beings and doctors. So I don't see it taking over the world anytime soon.
And what about, basic queries? For example, would a chatbot replace, a human medical assistant?
Right.
What about something like that?
Right. So, how artificial intelligence works is that it has the capacity to analyze a lot of data, like a million pages of data. And so it does have the knowledge. But I would say that the best use of artificial intelligence as a chatbot would be to use it to triage situations. That is, to let it decide if a particular situation or a symptom that a patient is going through is something that needs emergency medical attention or is something that could wait for a couple of days. Because, like we know, a lot of diseases, a lot of conditions are best handled. They have better outcomes when they're detected earlier and treated earlier.
Right.
So, I think it would be great if somebody who does not have access to healthcare immediately could contact, an AI chatbot and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. What do you think? And not rely on it to give a diagnosis or a treatment plan, but to let the patient know what it could be and whether they have to seek medical care immediately or not.
Thank you for that. And if we have to sort of, delve into specific fields, so imaging fields like
Right.
radiology and pathology, how is AI playing a role here?
So, artificial intelligence is actually gaining a lot of popularity in the fields of radiology and pathology, especially like you mentioned. So, again, like I said, artificial intelligence has the capacity to go through a lot of data. So, it has gone through millions of scans and images, be it CT, X rays, and MRIs. So, when a radiologist goes through any imaging, uh, each image is cut down into very small pieces, what we call as slices, so that not even a single millimeter is left to chance. And the radiologist has to go through each and every slice. And that's how they get an accurate image of what's going on with the patient. So obviously, this requires a lot of time on part of the doctor and also a lot of focused attention so they don't miss anything. So, how artificial intelligence can actually enhance this process and not take over but enhance this process is by bringing to light anything that looks out of ordinary. It could be a condition, it could be something that looks like an infection, could be a tumor, and the artificial intelligence can pick this up and alert the doctor and bring it to the doctor's notice, and then the doctor takes it from there. Same with pathology.
So, since we are talking about buzzwords and sort of the major concerns, I think we should definitely talk about diabetes and hypertension. I think this is something that is prevalent everywhere, and maybe you could talk about the role that AI plays in managing this.
Like you said, Paloma, such chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension are the majority of the healthcare burden of any country. How artificial intelligence could help patients who are suffering from chronic conditions like this would be to sort of act as a guiding light. So we now have a lot of devices, like you may be aware of, especially wearable devices. So these devices could be used to monitor conditions such as the sugar or the blood pressure of a patient. And if one of these parameters is a bit off from the normal level, this wearable device would be able to alert the patient saying, your sugar looks a little low or high, or the blood pressure looks a bit high. And so this would give the patient an opportunity to seek treatment before anything major happens. So before they have an episode of really high blood pressure or before they have an episode of really low sugar, which is very hard to come back from, artificial intelligence could be wonderful in helping them to seek preventive care and not wait until the incident has happened. Also, artificial intelligence could be used to remind them to take their medications on time, which is something that a lot of patients forget in our hustle and bustle of our daily life. So this would be a great application of artificial intelligence.
Something else that's also prevalent now that we are seeing so much of in the last little while is cancer. So, just like I asked you this about diabetes and hypertension, where do we see AI in, like you said, treating and maybe even preventing cancer? What kind of a role does it play?
Sure. So I think when it comes to cancer, artificial intelligence can play two roles. The first would be in early detection of cancer, which obviously leads to better patient outcomes. There have been studies, especially in the field of breast cancer, where using mammograms and also going through patients' clinical data and family history, artificial intelligence has been able to come up with a better positive predictive value in diagnosing and detecting cancers early in women. So there were studies done in Miami and in in Sweden, where there was a 10% to 20% better positive predictive outcome. So when cancers like breast cancer are detected early, it massively improves the outcome for these patients. And once a cancer has been detected, artificial intelligence can be used in tailoring individualized chemotherapy protocols. Because, like as a species, we vary from country to country, and our genomics differs, our food habits differ, our family history differs. So instead of relying on a one size fits all protocol when it comes to chemotherapy, artificial intelligence has the ability to go through each patient's individual clinical history, family history, genomics, understand what works best for their body, and come up with a chemotherapy protocol that will work best for them. And that looks very promising right now.
Nice, it's definitely good news for everyone. And if we're talking a little bit about how AI can help the human beings in all of this on both sides of this, one is your doctors and your hospital staff in terms of burnout, and one is sort of lesser waiting periods for the end consumer. Maybe you could shed some light on both sides.
So I understand that as a patient, the patient experience is very important because a patient is already stressed because they do know that something is potentially wrong with them. So hospitals and healthcare professionals in general try their best to make the patient experience as smooth as possible. And artificial intelligence definitely is helping with this in a lot of hospitals. From something as simple as scheduling appointments so patients don't have to come in advance and wait too long to meet their doctor, or understanding how many beds are available, scheduling beds so maximum number of patients can be tended to, treated. And so patient flow has improved massively. Coming to the other side, that is the hospital's experience, there's a lot of back end work that goes on in hospitals. So artificial intelligence is being used to streamline this process. So even in our hospital, in Rajalakshmi HealthCity, we are using artificial intelligence to streamline this process in our hospital management systems, to stock our pharmacies, to know when our doctors are available, to schedule our operating theaters so that all operations go smoothly and nobody has to wait excessively. And also, a lot of doctor brain drain is to do with a lot of paperwork that doctors are expected to do, which nobody really knows about. It comes from insurance to billing to even discharge summaries to making sure your patient comes back for their review appointments on time. So, artificial intelligence is being used in a lot of these systems and processes to take a lot of things off the healthcare professionals' plate and thus giving them more time to focus on what's important, and that is our patient and treatment of these patients.
So, a lot of people travel to big cities for better treatment, specifically when it comes to healthcare. So, how can AI improve healthcare access in maybe rural or underserved areas?
So we do recognize that tier 1 cities like Chennai have a lot of tertiary healthcare centers, but there are rural areas that where patients don't have access to basic healthcare facilities. And this is where artificial intelligence can really play a big role in bridging the gap between the need for healthcare and the availability of doctors and healthcare provisions. When you look at Rajalakshmi HealthCity, we are located in an area that's just outside of the main city where we serve a lot of hamlets surrounding our hospital. So, what hospitals like us and a lot of the other bigger hospitals try to do is use artificial intelligence and combine it with technologies like telemedicine, where we can provide patients living in tier 2 and 3 cities with no access to even primary healthcare facilities an option to come and connect to a healthcare professional. And so artificial intelligence again could be used to just as a triage to see, take down an initial list of symptoms and to see what sort of services these patients require. Do they need to talk to a surgeon? Do they need to talk to a physician? Or is it something that requires them to immediately be transported to a hospital? And I think when patients have the information about what is wrong with them and what needs to be done, it just helps ease the chaos and the confusion that comes along with having to suffer from any sort of condition. So I think artificial intelligence will be playing a big role in bridging this gap between the need for healthcare professionals and patients. So also to add on to what I said, Paloma, about artificial intelligence in radiology especially, at Rajalakshmi HealthCity, our radiology instruments, that is CT and MRI, are artificial intelligence enhanced. And when I say that, what I mean is that we use artificial intelligence to help radiologists make the process smoother for both the doctor and the patients. So, apart from helping radiologists diagnose and pick up conditions easier, with the patient experience, artificial intelligence helps provide maybe an optimal patient positioning where we don't have to repeat the scan again just because we didn't get the perfect position and we didn't get the perfect image. So, obviously, this cuts down a lot of radiation exposure and a lot of time for the patient and makes the entire process that much more smoother and also that much more efficient. So, that is something that artificial intelligence has really helping, especially radiologists nowadays, and how we are using it in our hospital and embracing this technology.
I'm also curious from a medical perspective. I'd like to know, Dr. Apoorva, what are the common myths associated with AI and healthcare?
I think a couple of most common myths. One would be that artificial intelligence is here to take the jobs of doctors. And the second myth would be that artificial intelligence alone is enough to eventually start treating patients. And people prefer relying on this technology rather than doctors because obviously there is a chance of human error. But to bust those myths, artificial intelligence, like I mentioned, is a powerful tool, but you have to realize that essentially what it does is analyze data and give you answers. So, artificial intelligence can probably tell you what would be the best course of treatment, but it cannot provide you with that treatment. And for that, you need doctors, you need nurses, you need healthcare professionals, and you also need human discernment because sometimes the machine cannot take into account emotions, family histories, and a lot of things that patients go through. So you definitely need doctors and healthcare professionals to help you with that. And the second thing being that artificial intelligence can do no wrong, that is completely wrong because, as you know, artificial intelligence still suffers from what we call hallucinations, where it just makes up certain answers when it doesn't really have a clue as to what's happening, but we are actively working on this. So when we combine artificial intelligence with the expertise of doctors, I would say that makes for a dream team.
Thank you so much for busting a couple of those myths. I learned a thing or two today. And sort of just before we close part one of today's talk, there's so much happening in the world of AI. So I'm curious, from your point of view, what can we look forward to? What are you excited about? What's new in the world of AI?
I think in general, artificial intelligence is just revolutionizing the field of healthcare, and that is really exciting for all of us, patients, doctors, healthcare professionals. But here at Rajalakshmi Institutions, what we are particularly excited about is our latest center called RADAR, or the Rajalakshmi Advanced Diagnostics and Applied Radiomics. I know it's a mouthful center. So this is where it's like a pioneering center where we're combining the expertise of engineering, along that is from Rajalakshmi Institute of Technology, along with healthcare facilities at Rajalakshmi HealthCity. So what Radar is it's a space for engineering and healthcare to meet and to provide solutions for real world healthcare problems. So at Rajalakshmi HealthCity, we have a lot of cutting edge technology. We have artificial intelligence enabled radiology, especially that is MRI and CT machines. And so we provide a platform for engineers who want to solve a lot of problems that we are not yet able to solve, and they can come to this center, use our artificial intelligence enabled instruments, and collect data and collect problems that need to be solved, and actively work on becoming a pioneer in the field of health tech and AI in healthcare. So that is something we're really looking forward to see the growth and collaboration between our Rajalakshmi Institute of Technology and HealthCity.
Do you have sort of words of advice for youngsters who are looking to be educated in this particular field? There's been a lot of interest in AI in healthcare, robotics, etc. But what would you say to those young people?
I would say keep an open mind and not to shut yourself off from technology, because it is here to stay, and to be able to just learn how to adapt and learn how to involve technology in everyday decisions. I think that would be great, because going forward we're going to see a lot of revolution when it comes to technology being used in healthcare. And so I would say just learn to be adaptable and always be curious, and that would take you far.
Super. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for enlightening us. And we will come back to talk a little bit about engineering and AI in engineering. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And now moving on to part two of today's conversations, talking about AI in engineering. And with me is Dr. Sundar R, the director of the Rajalakshmi Institute of Technology. He's had over 38 years of combined academic and industrial experience. I think you're the right person to be talking on this topic. So let's start with talking about what is exciting on campus. We hear that you'll have a quantum computer. It sounds very interesting. So maybe you could tell all of our viewers about what it's meant for and who will be the lucky ones who get to use it.
We are very proud to be the front runners in anticipating and procuring a quantum computer in our premise here, and we will be shortly inaugurating that as well. The idea is in the present day, quantum computing can provide a lot of high performance solutions in a very short time as well. And so that's the up and coming area. So we believe we are introducing the right requirements for our budding engineers and for the future ready engineers. And so we anticipate that this will drive both the AI development and the quantum computing development, provide the resources necessary for that, and ensure that these can be applied meaningfully to many real world problems. It is with that anticipation that we have introduced this into our system. We have made this as part of our curriculum, and we hope that this will enable a lot of future engineers to be capable and get them prepared for what as needed.
So continuing on in the same vein, maybe you could tell us what are the skills that future engineers would require to work alongside AI systems effectively?
Engineers, as you know, are into engineering solutions to real world problems. And the basic requirements, yes, remains the same to some extent, namely good analytical thinking capability and a strong engineering background. More so, in the context of working with the AI-driven systems, engineers also need to be very aware of the tools that are available to them. They should be, the digital fluency should be good for them, and they should be in a position to use all the tools relevant for this to be working alongside AI systems the right way and provide meaningful solutions. As you're aware, AI is a data-driven approach, meaning much of the learning happens through what is available as a data, and so it has to build on that. So in that sense, the engineers also should be conversant with working with the data-centric approaches and thereby leverage their capability along with AI systems to provide good, meaningful solutions.
So everyone's talking about all the different ways in which AI can solve all our problems and make our lives easier. So, in regards to that, let me quickly ask you about, for example, on a daily basis, planning cities. How can it help with making infrastructure and the planning of cities and living life in general easier?
AI and in the context of cities, we now, in the today's context, we talk about smart city. Right? So in the smart city context, what is important is, am I able to provide an environment that is good for the society, where people can live comfortably, peacefully, and ensure that they don't run into disruptions. Now, what this means is the smart city needs to be aware of what's happening around in the city and ensure that where there are problems, those can be addressed and ensure that smooth flow of, for example, traffic can happen. Emergency situations can be handled the right way. How do we manage our energy requirements for the city? How do you manage the waste that's generated by we humans? So in all of these, the data-centric approach and the ability to use the data, known data, and have a predictive pattern by which we can handle the situation so that you don't create more problems, but rather solutions where harmony can be established and the city can function normally. I think in that sense, AI can actually provide a lot of good support.
So I hear that even Rajalakshmi Institute of Technology also uses AI for campus operations as well as academics. I'm curious to hear more about this.
Sure. See, as you know, everybody is now starting to use AI because it's been brought to a form where it's more convenient for us to use it. In fact, ChatGPT is a good example. But in addition, what happens is we consciously take a lot of effort in providing the background to the students so that they understand the tools that are available and how to use the tools to build solutions. So with these same capabilities, we have now tried to introduce various schemas that will help in running the organization, our own organization here. And so we have done a lot of effort to use AI in these many different times. We are happy to say that yes, some of these are already in a working solution and we see good benefits of it.
So in what way is AI changing the way engineers design and test prototypes?
Good question. The engineering, as you know, in the initial phases and much of how it happens is you go through a trial and error process. What this means is you believe a certain approach may work and give you a solution. But interestingly, you'll find that this trial and error, the error part tells that you have to keep trying. Right? You have to keep trying. You try many different approaches before you zoom in onto the solution. When you now use AI, because it leverages out of a lot of history, it uses data from before. So you have at your fingertips now capabilities that you were unaware of because of your own individual background, but available in the AI system. And so you find that you can quickly use these AI techniques, generative AI methods to the design. And then you can use the digital twins and other schemas to ensure that you can not only do the design, but you can simulate your solution and use all the tools available as part of AI to see to it that you can test and validate how the solution will work. So it obviously makes it a lot more easier in terms of a design development cycle. And that is something AI can actually effectively bring in because it brings in not just one person's expertise, but it brings in expertise within the field in terms of a very large number of experts, and that's the data that uses it as its background. So saying that, obviously it means that your engineering solution you can bring them out very quickly and bring them out to be very effective also.
So we spoke about engineering and AI in smart cities and sustainability. So tell us a little bit about AI being used to improve energy systems such as smart grids or renewable sources.
Yeah. When you look at energy system, in the present day context, as you know, energy systems, there are very many different forms with a good mix of these renewable energy, particularly the solar, wind, and even the wave energy and many other forms are coming up slowly. The the problem with these alternative energy sources are that they are not continuously available. You may have to use them when they are available very effectively. What this means is the ability to predict, the ability to understand this is how the trend is going to be. And so in energy system, our ability to predict the needs, when is it is going to spike, that I have a weather prediction which tells me that I'm going to see a hot day tomorrow, says that I'm going to see a lot more people turning on their AC, which means the energy is going to spike. If I can predict that and ensure that I provide the support for the energy to be available when this prediction happens, then you find that you have a seamless energy solution which optimizes and uses all of these available energy sources in the best way possible. So in that sense, AI can provide, it can bring in a lot of support for these energy systems.
And how is AI being integrated into robotics for manufacturing and automation?
Automation, particularly in manufacturing, if you see, the early phase was to say, can I do this in a reproducible form? Can I have a machine do this automatically? Now, when using robots, you go to the next level where you say the robot may have certain functionality, almost human, but to bring that intelligence into this, you obviously need AI to come with that. And so once you put an AI along with these robots in this automation framework, you can now have semi-autonomous systems that are able to understand the environment and see how the machineries are performing, take action, and then ensure that they have a high performance production, high efficiency production that are enabled in the production process. I believe it provides a strong leverage to enhance productivity, bringing in AI with robotics into the industries.
And looking at the, say, industrial setting, does AI have the ability to maybe prevent equipment failure before it happens?
Interesting. The equipment failure, many times we attribute it, we don't know something has happened inside, it's failed. But if you look at it a little deeper, you understand that, the reason for failures can be broken down into these elements, namely certain things that wear out, certain things where, by the nature of the environment, deterioration happens. And therefore, understanding the backdrop of what caused these failures makes it possible for you to predict, anticipate, and enable a preventive maintenance. So obviously, an AI approach now uses trends, typical performances of the systems, the usage conditions, and thereby enable preventive maintenance that can happen and therefore enhance machine failure to be seen as in a very, very, very low level.
So we had asked Dr. Apoorva sort of top of the head question, which is common myths about AI in healthcare. So I'm going to pose the same question to you, which is common myths when it comes to AI in engineering. What were those, the ones you've most often heard, or the myths that you'd like to debunk?
Okay. See, one of the big issues with the AI, as in any, if you look at history, industrialization has caused a lot of headaches for many people. Meaning, they thought their domain is being encroached upon, so they won't be able to survive. History has shown us many things, even in our Indian context. I recall how when computers were introduced into the banking sector, there is a big hue and cry where people felt that these bank clerks will be losing their jobs. Now we had to go through a huge amount of education to make them understand that you're not going to lose your job. And of course, they also ensured that by saying, definitely we are not going to take you away from your job. But then you have to reskill yourself. You will reskill yourself, understand how to use computers. And now I think we are at a point where banking systems will collapse if you say there are no computers anymore for banking. So the same situation holds good with AI. There is an assumption that AI is going to replace humans. So this is a strong myth. Many people are sometimes, you might say, afraid of it. But as with any technology, our ability to use it effectively and prevent misuse is important. So I would say AI can bring in a lot of benefits, but at the same time, we have to be careful to ensure that we use it the right way and look at potential pitfalls and avoid them. Now, AI in that sense is not going to replace humans. Now, yes, it brings in a certain collective human experience and knowledge into the AI framework, but at the same time, to looking at what is needed in today's context and what are the right solutions in today's context, we need the human input also to come. Secondly, we need a lot of human resources just to build these AI systems. And so, they, in some sense, you say, next, I would take a couple of decades, you will still see big growth in this, where humans are not being affected the way people think they will. Say, definitely going to be very useful for us. And so we should see how to embrace it and use it effectively.
So besides AI itself being the big buzzword, you always keep hearing about generative AI, all over. So with regards to, engineering and innovation, tell us a bit about generative AI in that sense.
Generative AI again tries to leverage about all of the knowledge that we have, and from that try to infer and come up with seemingly new schemas, new approach. So in a design sense, in a designing solutions to a problem, generative AI can definitely give a few options that one can try out. And interestingly, the follow through anyway needs a lot more analytical thinking and you might say using tools, as I said before, to see to it that your solution can still work. But in trying to zoom in onto a few approaches that are meaningful in the context of the engineering problem, definitely it will be very helpful. And that is how it has to be seen. Of course, in a different context, now people have the problem that the answer is supposed to come from a human, but instead it's coming from this generative AI. So ChatGPT is a good example. People are using that so much that for any question, any answer, they try to generate the answer from that and submit it. So we should discourage students from doing that because it defeats the purpose of what the exam is about. But in the context of understanding, in the context of coming up with the potential innovation, what are the options that one can choose, what is meaningful, and so on, a generative AI can definitely provide the key options with which you can zoom in onto and try out different solutions. So in that sense, yes, it is very helpful. I think in the context of putting it as, should I see this as a human generated output or not, is where the question is, right? And that we go into a different realm. When I say that, for example, how do you distinguish between an artwork versus an engineering drawing? Oh, an artwork is supposed to be something the human creativity brings in some value there, some differences. So it's obviously not like an engineering drawing, or sometimes not like a natural scene, but the artist brings in their own flavor into it. So in the same vein, a generative AI may give you a certain framework, but it is the engineer's job to see to it that they can recast it into a meaning.
So, since you've kind of spoken about the human element and how it interacts with the power of AI, can you talk a little bit more about it? Because Dr. Apoorva also spoke about how you may have the robots performing the surgery, but you still need your doctors, their bedside manner, your nurses, the rest of the system, and very much in the medical field, the human element. So, can you talk a bit about that when it comes to engineering and how important that human element is? Since people are so scared that humans are going to be removed from their jobs.
Yeah, I think that is. I think it leads to the issues of the myth as we talked about earlier. But what happens is, all said and done, when we talk about the generative AI, they normally talk about different large models that are used as the basis to come up with the solution. But what do you mean with large model? The large model is nothing but the backdrop of what we have as all of the information in either a particular domain or in a collection of domains. And we are trying to see from that, how do we see to it that these are the meaningful responses I can build from that. So in that sense, even a generative AI is relying on all the past information, past history of what we humans have evolved. And therefore, if you want to talk about true creativity, then we say it needs intelligence. Generative AI is still AI at this point. It's still not intelligent. So in that sense, you will find that it may give you certain options to try, but the innovation and the key elements, considering a certain current context and so on, can happen with the true intelligence rather than with the generative AI based intelligence. I think that is where we are going to see some changes. That is where we are going to see the human participation in bringing out solutions. I think we have to see all of these as tools that's going to enable us to have a more harmonious, more comfortable society for us. And that is how we have to see how to enable use of these solutions in that way.
And since we are talking about, what's coming up next, and again, I pose the same question to Dr. Apoorva. Maybe you could tell us about, what you're excited about, what we can look forward to in the world of AI with regards to engineering.
With regard to engineering, I think wherever you see you need human resources, and the problem of using those resources effectively is where some of these issues come. Take, for example, from the academic point of view, I am interested in seeing that the students understand an engineering subject and they're able to use it effectively in potential solutions that they may need to work on in wherever they are. When an industry's point of view, I need engineers who have these capabilities, and to some extent, part of it is skilling, and so we take that in our stride now. Earlier, the industry used to take care of it. I'll give you this background. Next first 6 months after you join, you'll go through this training. After that, you're ready to go and work on the problems. Now, what has happened is they find that they are unable to handle the timeline given the business requirements, and they say, "Can you do it at the institution?" And so that's what we do now. So we take care of much of the training with these tools and these facilities using the guidance of the industry and ensuring that the students have now the right background so that they can be useful in providing solutions for the industry. And now, same way, yeah.
No, please continue.
Yeah. So in that same vein, what happens is when you look at AI, if AI is going to give all the solutions for us, what is the role that the humans are going to handle? So that becomes a key question. And so interestingly, you'll find that AI may not give you all the solutions. The idea is, more often than not, what we call as intelligence finally boils down to, can I take a correct decision? Now, let's give a different thing. I think you did mention about Dr. Apoorva talking about so many other things in the medical domain. If there is an ailment and there is an ailment where you are not sure it's the individual's problem now, right? So they say, one doctor says something. Now, should I go through that process? Apparently, it's a very involved one, and I may have to go through a lot of pain or so in the process. Is that the only approach? Is that the right approach? Then they say, no. I'll take another person's view, another expert's view. So in that sense, you'll find that there is, even among intelligent systems, we are forced to have a collaboration and look at options before we can take a decision. And in that sense, that part is still, I would say, is with the human side. And will machines be able to take all of the decisions? I don't know. In fact, I think sometimes some of these accidents that happen will trigger you to think through some of these issues. Look at today's aircraft. There are supposed to be so much of automation and autonomous functions within an aircraft, right? That they are almost capable of flying by themselves. But see what happens in certain situations where we had this recent accident, right, at Ahmedabad. Now, What are the problem? We still don't know. We hope that, looking through all of the data, we'll be able to trace through what has happened and then finally see what was the reason for that accident that happened. And hopefully that will enable us to prevent future accidents. And so it is in that sense that when you talk about a decision to be taken, we still rely on humans to do the decision taking, because all said and done, finally that is going to impact us humans. So in that sense, yes, AI should be seen as a supportive framework. Like computers enabled a lot of things to be done automatically, we still use computers to provide good solutions for us. And so same thing we could. Thank you.
And to sort of wind up, do you have any advice for youngsters looking to study and pursue careers in the field of AI? What would you tell them?
I think a few points for the students, for sure, is the fact that what the past couple of decades have taught us is that what I learned may not be useful all through my life. What I learned, I may have to unlearn and relearn new things. And therefore, learning is something that has to be continuous. And so, if you look at the changes that take place, new methods, new schemas that come in, ability to be adaptable, to be able to use what is currently available, current technology available very effectively, becomes a key required. And so we should strive towards that, right? Namely, not expect that an answer is going to be given to you in a platter like this AI system, but rather, what do I do to see to it that I can be productive, I can be useful? How do I see to it that I am adaptable to assimilate what is available, assimilate the technologies that are available, and thereby contribute to the improvement of the society at large.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sundar, for joining us here today at Times Conversation.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it. Thank you.